this type of hate and this type of behavior is quite despicable, and I'm standing here before you quite upset and quite angry this morning that I have to have this conversation with you.
Police in Toronto and York region are bolstering patrols around places of worship after 2 synagogues were struck by gunfire overnight. Good evening. Investigators say it's too early to say if the shootings in Thornhill and North York are connected.
Community leaders and politicians condemning the attacks, the overnight gunfire, marking the 3rd time synagogues in the region were targeted this week. CTV's John Musselman has been following the story and joins us live now from a TPS command post at Bathurst and Shepherd with the latest. John.
Well, Andrew, as you mentioned, yes, there is a command center here at Bathurst and Shepherd, also one in Thornhill, as police appeal to the public for help in trying to track down the people responsible for both of these shootings. At least 6 bullets tore through the front doors of this synagogue in Thornhill. 2 people were inside when the shots rang out just before midnight. Police say no one was injured, but the shooting has shaken the Jewish community, and Vaughan's mayor calls it a hateful anti-Semitic act.
This morning alone, I heard from several members of this congregation who feel like they no longer have a future here in Canada. That breaks my heart. The Jewish community here in Vaughan and across this country has been fundamental to our prosperity, our growth, and the values that I know we hold dear.
A police car and extra security is now posted at the synagogue. There will also be added police patrols in the community near places of worship. A command center has also been set up at the nearby Promenade Mall in Thornhill to address public concerns.
Oh, it's terrible. It's awful. It's there's a serious problem, and we have people lashing out at our community, and we need the politicians to do something about it.
I don't think it's right to go and shooting synagogue.
The synagogue was also hit by gunfire in North York just after midnight. It's located near Bathurst and Glencairn Avenue.
Let me be clear. An incident like this is vile and has no place in Toronto. It is completely unacceptable, and the Toronto Police Service is dedicating no small amount of resources to dealing with it.
No one was injured, and at this point, investigators say there's no evidence the 2 shootings are connected. But it has not been ruled out, and police will look for any forensic evidence that might connect them.
We'll even look at things like cartridges, casings left behind, caliber of those rounds to see if those are the same, and draw some parallels between that.
Sarah Lefton with the United Jewish Appeal calls these shootings horrific and a threat to all Canadians. It comes as tensions increase over the war in the Middle East.
This is not just a Jewish issue. It may look like it's just, because there are synagogues being shot at, that this is an issue that should just be of concern to the Jewish community. It is absolutely not. This is about violence and willful promotion of terrorism against democratic values and the right to live as Canadians safely and securely here in Canada. That's what this is about.
Meanwhile, Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow condemned the shootings in social media posts. Quote, "They are an attack on the Jewish community and a fundamental right of every person in Canada to worship safely and freely. Our government will continue working closely with police to ensure that places of worship are protected and those responsible are held accountable. Anti-Semitism has no place in Ontario. These are disgusting acts of anti-Semitism, hate, and intimidation." That post from Olivia Chow. Back in Thornhill, police are canvassing for security video. They say they're looking for a dark-colored sedan that was seen in the area at the time of the shooting. And here at the command center at Bathurst and Shepherd, they're also appealing to the public for help as well for any video that anyone may have showing the people responsible for the synagogue shooting near Bathurst and Glencairn. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, John. In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney called the synagogue shootings an assault on the rights of Jewish people. And he also said he called them fundamental violations of the Canadian way of life. He added, in part, federal agencies, including the RCMP, will use every resource to support law enforcement in the identity of perpetrators of these crimes and bring them to the full weight of justice.
In Peel Region, police are investigating a shooting at a Mississauga hotel early this morning. Officers were called to the area of Derry Road and Hurontario Street around 3:30 a.m. Paramedics tell us an adult victim was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say they have no suspect description at this time and are asking anyone with information to come forward.
An arrest has been made in a 2024 fatal shooting near Jane and Lawrence as police continue to hunt for a second suspect. 42-year-old Debbie Jones was arrested for second-degree murder in the death of 42-year-old Anthony McBean in September of 2024. McBean was found suffering from a gunshot wound around 7:30 a.m. at a plaza on the northwest corner of Jane and Lawrence. Jones was extradited to Canada from Jamaica yesterday. Meanwhile, investigators continue to search for 35-year-old Ricardo Manuel Bailey. He's wanted for second-degree murder, and investigators believe he also may be in Jamaica. Anyone with information on his location is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
A man in his 60s is dead after being hit by a pole that was knocked down in a hit-and-run crash in North York last night. Police are searching for the male driver of an Acura MDX that they say disobeyed a red light at a high rate of speed and was involved in a crash with a Volkswagen attempting to make a left-hand turn. The crash happened at the intersection of Steeles and Jerry Fitzgerald Drive around 6:45 last night. Officers say the driver of the Acura lost control following the crash and struck a utility pole on the northwest corner of the intersection, causing it to fall on a pedestrian. The 62-year-old man was pronounced dead at the scene. The male driver of the Acura abandoned his vehicle and fled on foot. He was last seen wearing a gray or blue tracksuit and a black backpack. Anyone with information or dash cam footage from the area is asked to contact investigators. And police are searching for the driver of a transport truck involved in another hit and run last night, this time in Scarborough. It happened around 7:30 near Brimley Road and Eglinton Avenue. A man was rushed to hospital with serious injuries, but he is expected to survive. Investigators are looking for a white transport truck that was last seen heading westbound on Eglinton.
An 8-year-old girl has been found after being allegedly abducted by her mother yesterday. She was in good health, and officers say the mother, who does not have custody of the child, took them away from their legal guardian yesterday afternoon in the area of Spadina and Dundas. The mother has since been arrested and charged with 1 count of abduction by a parent contrary to a custody order.
We'll have more news in a moment, but first here's a live look at the city this evening. And how about that? Mild temperatures. You can see plenty of the ice on Lake Ontario starting to melt away. It has been a gorgeous day from that perspective. Yes, there has been some precipitation, but hey, listen, and this time of the year, we'll take what we can get. Let's take a look at the weather alerts, because if you've been outside, you likely noticed that there's been plenty of fog across the GTA. The GTA right now is not under a fog advisory, but other areas of southwestern Ontario is, like our friends in Waterloo, Barrie up in Parry Sound. Then our friends out east have a rainfall warning, anywhere from 15 to 40 millimeters of rain in Kingston, Bancroft, and Ottawa. And that's going to depend on a system which I'll show you right now. This is the satellite radar, and you can see the bulk of the activity happening either south of Niagara Falls or east in the Kingston, Ottawa area. They could also see some thunderstorms and lightning. That's that yellow, and that is where those upper echelons of the 40 millimeters of rain could come. From a wind perspective, 13 kilometers in Toronto, 30 kilometers per hour in London, and we're also dealing with some gusts as well. From a temperature perspective, 15 degrees in Hamilton, 11 in Parry Sound, and 14 degrees in Goderich. Now, if you like those numbers, stay tuned, because we will be experiencing some similar temperatures next week. So stay tuned for that, but also there will be some mixed precipitation. All those details a little later on. For now, Andrea, coming back to you.
Thanks, Raheem. Now to the latest on the war in the Middle East. As the U.S. and Israel keep up strikes on Iran, and the Islamic regime sends a message to neighboring Gulf states following days of attacks.
Here's CTV's Adrian Gabriel.
The weight of a week of war written on the faces of weary travelers arriving at Istanbul airport.
How does it feel to be in Istanbul safe?
Alhamdulillah, very good, happy.
CTV News flew from southern Turkey north to Istanbul on Saturday, hoping to greet dozens of Canadians as they arrived on the first Government of Canada chartered flight from the United Arab Emirates. Just as we landed, we learned of troubling news out of Dubai International Airport.
God.
An explosion at one of the world's busiest airports, delaying flights and causing passengers to pause.
So this is today at Dubai Airport.
Oops.
Edmontonian Fayez Ahmed drove from Abu Dhabi to Muscat, Oman, finally arriving in Istanbul, where he was able to reflect on the past week, caught in a conflict.
All of a sudden there was the alert and all that, and I was really scared, yeah.
It was a much more violent scene at Tehran's Mehrabad airport this morning. Iran's UN envoy says more than 1,300 civilians have been killed in that country as the war enters its second week. Collapsed buildings in southern Beirut tell just part of the deadly story. More than 200 have died in this city since the most recent fighting began. Today, Iran's president apologized to Gulf nations that have been attacked, saying that Iran's Interim Leadership Council has agreed from now on, neighboring countries won't be targeted unless they attack us. There are some questioning Iran's president's authority to control the country's military, especially after today's events in Dubai. For the fortunate few Canadians who've navigated their way out of the Middle East to Istanbul, their journey still has one more important leg to go.
I'm halfway there. I'm not back at school yet, so we'll see.
It's been an emotional few days.
Never seen such things. It's not about being scared or whatever, but to be with families, I think, is more important.
You just want to get home and hug your family.
As for the Canadians flying on a government-chartered plane out of Dubai, they're just one of multiple flights to experience significant delays leaving that city as a difficult week grows that much longer for those yearning for the comfort of home. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Istanbul.
The federal government has pledged to keep working to bring Canadians home from the Middle East via commercial and charter flights, and where possible, via land transport to an operating airport.
CTV's Kamal Karmali was at Pearson Airport today as a flight arrived from Dubai.
The third flight and third day in a row, we've seen a flight come in from Dubai carrying Canadian passengers who've been desperate to leave the United Arab Emirates, specifically coming out of Dubai. Some of them were vacationing there when they said they got stuck. Some of them have a second home there and have family there. But many of them, if not all, very relieved to be back home in the safety of the arms of their loved ones. We saw parents greeting children. We saw siblings greeting siblings. We saw children greeting parents as well. Just a whole host of relationships. Have a listen and some sound to some of these emotional interactions that happened earlier today.
Just arrived, yeah, from Dubai. I'm happy. I'm gonna see my family.
How happy will you be to see him?
I'm so happy, too much.
Now, this flight, according to Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, carrying about 51 Canadians. The government saying Ottawa had put aside about 51 seats for Canadians in this flight directly from Dubai to Toronto to today. And what we've heard from passengers is not only relief to be back on Canadian soil, but a lot of complaints about the communication from the Government of Canada and Global Affairs Canada. Many of them telling us that it has been a frustrating ordeal now that this war has surpassed the 1 week mark. They have been trying for days to communicate with not only Global Affairs, but Air Canada, any airline that could maybe help them out. They said that they feel frustrated and abandoned by their own government, but not only that, they said it was really the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, that really stepped up to help, and the Emirates airline that really came through for them, not giving much credit to our own government for helping them. But for now, just relieved to be home. And once again, we know that according to Anita Anand, that there are about 108,000 Canadians in the region. 3,500 of them have been asked to leave or have asked for help in leaving Dubai and the UAE. We also know that many of these people got out just in the nick of time. We don't know if the other Canadians on on the ground who want to leave will be able to get out, because we heard about a drone strike that took place just moments before this flight was able to leave, hitting Dubai International Airport, temporarily suspending operations Saturday morning. And that just comes just after Iran had announced that it will no longer target its neighbors. So some close and harrowing situations. These passengers and Canadians very relieved to be home, especially with that drone strike happening just after their plane took off.
That's CTV's Kamal Karamali. At the same time, the Canadian Border Services Agency has issued a temporary halt on deportations to Israel and Lebanon. Government officials say this comes as the current conflict in those countries is creating a generalized risk to the entire civilian population, with both reporting civilian fatalities and injuries. The temporary halt is imposed on countries considered unsafe due to conditions such as environmental disasters or violence. And the conflict in the Middle East having an impact on gas prices here in the GTA that are again on the rise this weekend. Prices climbed to roughly $1.56 a litre this morning. That's up 7 cents from Friday. Another 3-cent increase is expected overnight. Prices across the GTA have jumped more than 15 cents a litre since the conflict in the Middle East began. Energy specialists say that if the situation continues, transportation companies and airlines may start adding fuel surcharges for customers.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is back from his overseas trip, which saw him visit several countries across the Indo-Pacific. The PM's last stop was in Japan, where he was looking to do what he did in India and Australia, highlighting Canada as a reliable export partner for key goods like agricultural products and natural gas. Canada and Japan announced a new strategic partnership, boosting trade, energy, and defense ties. This comes as Japanese automakers keep a close eye on tariff tensions between Canada and the U.S. The Prime Minister has said the goal of the trip is to diversify Canada's trade. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said he'd like to see more action rather than talk on that front. Poilievre has been on a trip to Europe, pitching closer ties between Canada and its European and Commonwealth partners.
Back here in Canada, polls show the governing Liberals expanding their lead over the official opposition. The latest rolling poll from Nanos Research saw the Liberals surge nearly 5 points to 43.6% ballot support if a vote were held today. The Conservatives dipped 2 points to just over 33%, while the NDP were just over 11%.
Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are on the political ropes. You know, they have been close for the last year, but, you know, with basically almost an 10 or 11 point advantage, the Liberals are kind of opening a significant lead. Probably explains, Lauren, why Pierre Poilievre is on his international charm offensive. It's to try to be a little more competitive with Mark Carney and to provide an alternative competing vision on the foreign policy front, because the polling has suggested that Pierre Poilievre, at least when it comes to things like Canada-U.S. relations, really trails Mark Carney. So not a big surprise that Poilievre is out there trying to kind of flex the Conservative foreign policy muscle in order to try to close the gap that is now widening between the Liberals and the Conservatives.
When it comes to Canadians' preferred choice for Prime Minister, support for Mark Carney climbed to 56%, while Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre slid to 22.2%. All the other leaders saw below 3% support. The figures are considered accurate, within 3.1 percentage points 19 times out of 20.
And Prime Minister Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith have reached an agreement in principle to accelerate construction of major projects in Alberta while reinforcing environmental protections.
CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more on the details of the deal and its significance.
This is one step in a long list of commitments made in the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Ottawa and Alberta. The government says today's agreement will help simplify and speed up the process to deliver major projects. But this deal only addresses cooperation between Ottawa and Alberta on environment and impact assessments. It is a draft cooperation agreement that builds on similar deals Ottawa already has with other provinces. The government says it would bring a one project, one review system, creating a streamlined approach for major projects that meets both federal and provincial requirements and ensures the rights of Indigenous communities are respected.
Major projects within our boundaries are going to be governed by Alberta processes. That, I think, restores the original intention of how our country is supposed to work. That being said, we need to have the legislation changed at the federal level. We're grateful for this carve-out, but I think that's another stage of the process.
The MOU had set an April 1st deadline to get this agreement done. Other commitments with the same deadline have yet to be achieved. That includes an agreement between Ottawa and Alberta on carbon pricing and methane equivalencies, as well as a trilateral agreement with the Pathways Project in the oil sands that would see Alberta commit to investing in a major carbon capture and storage project. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc was in Washington Friday to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer ahead of the review of a crucial trilateral trade pact. In a post on social media, LeBlanc described the meeting as constructive and substantive. The Canada-United States-Mexico agreement has protected Canada from the worst impact of U.S. tariffs, but the U.S. president has repeatedly cast doubt on the future of the trilateral trade pact. During a Q&A this week in Australia, Prime Minister Carney said that CUSMA effectively has been broken in the short term by U.S. actions.
Deaths have been reported south of the border after suspected tornadoes tore through several states. The U.S. National Weather Service says severe thunderstorms that began in northern Indiana appear to have caused twisters in southern Michigan that flattened neighborhoods and left rescue workers searching through rubble. At least 4 deaths were confirmed there, along with at least 4 in Oklahoma.
In Ukraine, officials say at least 10 people are dead after a Russian drone and missile attack overnight. This is the city of Kharkiv. Ukraine's Air Force says it shot down 453 drones and 19 missiles in the strike, but several others were able to strike 22 targets, including this residential area. Russia's defense ministry claimed it hit military, industrial, and energy sites as Moscow continues its more than 4-year-long invasion.
President Donald Trump said today that the U.S. will turn its attention to Cuba after the war with Iran.
And they want to negotiate, and they are negotiating with Marco and myself and some others. And I would think a deal would be made very easily with Cuba. But for 50 years I've been hearing, as a little boy, I'd be hearing about Cuba. You know, Cuba's a disaster. But I've been hearing so much about Cuba. But Cuba's in its last moments of life, as it was. It'll have a great new life, but it's in its last moments of life the way it is.
The communist-run island has been struggling with a shortage of basic necessities as the U.S. maintains an oil blockade following attacks on Venezuela. Trump made today's comments at a Florida meeting with several Central and South American leaders. He encouraged them to step up military action against drug trafficking cartels and transnational gangs.
Police in Arizona say they arrested Canadian NBA player Dylan Brooks on suspicion of driving under the influence.
Failed to maintain your lane just 6 different times, yeah? Right. And then to be honest with you, it smells like a dispensary in your car. So when was the last time you smoked marijuana?
I've smoked in like 6 months.
Brooks is from Mississauga and plays for the Phoenix Suns, but he's currently out of the lineup after undergoing surgery on a broken hand last week. Scottsdale police say they arrested the 30-year-old early yesterday morning after observing traffic violations. He was released 2 hours later, and police say it's up to prosecutors to determine any potential charges. CTV News has contacted the agency representing Brooks and haven't heard back at this time.
Back in the city, there's a partial closure on Line 2 for subway riders to keep in mind this weekend. There's no train service between Victoria Park and Kennedy because of track work. Shuttle buses are running instead. The TTC says Warden Station is closed, but all the other stations in that stretch will stay open so riders can buy fares and connect to buses. Regular service is set to resume Monday morning at 6 a.m.
Still ahead this hour, the struggling Maple Leafs looking to snap their 6-game losing streak tonight, hosting the top team in the Atlantic. We get you set for tonight's matchup after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Welcome back. A celebration is being held in the city today to mark Toronto's 192nd anniversary. This is a live look at Nathan Phillips Square, where a party is being held tonight to ring in the city's birthday, commemorating the incorporation of Toronto on March 6th, 1834. Not the best weather for it, but a DJ skating party is being held, presented by Mervish Productions. There's also food stalls and live performances reflecting the city's diverse multicultural communities. The celebration culminates with a fireworks show set to light up the night sky at 9 p.m.
And look how bright it is there.
I know, it's shocking, it's shocking. I came from up north today, and the fog was so thick. It was incredible. First of all, the rain overnight, I thought it was going to get washed away. And then secondly, the fog. And you could see, because it was so mild, just the fog rising. Yeah, it was just pretty
But I'll
amazing.
take it, because as I told you, we stepped outside today and we heard birds chirping. And I was like, is this real life? It feels like so long. And then I saw people running in shorts. People are like delayering in the middle because no one was expecting it.
People were
and it's
stripping.
Like, yeah.
People were stripping in the streets.
Come on to Mimico, you'll see it all. It's but
as long as it's not you.
Well, yes, listen. I'm going to stop right there. Almost got myself into trouble last week. All right, spring forward. Yes, it is that time of year. Setting our clocks ahead 1 hour at 2 a.m. Spring equinox, Friday, March 20th at 10:46 a.m. Let's talk about temperatures right now. 16 degrees in the city of Toronto. Wow, that's pretty incredible. 11 degrees in Wyerton, 4 degrees in Sudbury. Unfortunately, our friends up north in Timmins, Moosonee, Peawanuck, and Geraldton, they are still dealing with below zero temperatures. Here's your evening at a glance. There is, if you are going outside, maybe for the City of Toronto celebrations or just out for an evening stroll, be mindful that there is a risk of a thunderstorm throughout the night, so keep that umbrella handy. By about 11 p.m., there will be 10 degrees and a chance of showers and a fairly strong wind between 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. Our lows for tonight well above normal for this time of year. Normal for this time of this year would be -5. Our overnight low will be 4 degrees. As we wake up tomorrow, cloudy by 9 a.m., 2 degrees, and then we continue to warm up. How about this? Our daytime high tomorrow, 10 degrees. That's right. We are hitting double digits, and it will also come with some sunshine. We'll start the day with some cloud cover, but then that will clear out and we'll enjoy some sunshine. Let's take a look at the almanac. And how about this? Look at the record high. It was set back in 2012. Well, guess what? Today, we actually hit a new unofficial high. That's right. Unofficially, we hit 17.4 degrees. Environment Canada will confirm that for us tomorrow, but we have now hit a record high for March 7th, so that's good news. Here's your forecast radar. I mentioned clearing, and you can see what I'm talking about here. So the cloud cover rolls in, and then as we make our way through Sunday into Monday, we deal with clearing, and that takes us all the way to Monday at 6 p.m. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast. We've talked about Sunday, again, spring forward. Monday, more sunshine, a high of 15 degrees. On Tuesday, there will be a 30% chance of showers. More cloud cover on Wednesday as well. Jump ahead to Wednesday night, and you can see we drop down to below zero for our overnight low. That takes us to -4 degrees. We could see some more flurries on Thursday. Keep that in mind. We're not out of the woods just yet, right? It's March weather. We go up and down. Okay. There could be some mixing on Friday, but as it stands right now, next Saturday, the sunshine could return.
Thanks, Raheem.
Well, attracting and retaining nurses is an issue across the country, contributing to the major strain on the Canadian healthcare system.
But there is a growing number of recruits in BC. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more on why they decided to leave their lives in the United States behind.
You were laughing. This is a very unlikely group of co-workers, 4 Vancouver Island nurses who a few months ago lived thousands of kilometers apart in the United States.
I never imagined that I would ever leave.
But the women from Arizona, Michigan, and California each hit their own breaking point with the current U.S. climate.
If you're a nurse, you can't support what's going on down there. We all take an oath, to care for the poor and vulnerable, and that's not what's happening.
You face racism, right, in the U.S. It's almost like you can't miss it.
So belongings were packed up or sold off, and with partners, children, pets, or all alone, They crossed the border to start new lives in Nanaimo, BC.
It's beautiful here. There's so many beautiful hikes and waterfalls.
And they've been blown away by the reception from the community, including applause at the grocery store.
Somebody's like, where did you come from? I'm like, oh, from the U.S. He's like, are you one of our nurses? I'm like, yeah. And the next thing you know, just a bunch of people started clapping.
Not surprising, considering BC is short thousands of nurses. The BC government has been actively advertising in the U.S. to recruit healthcare workers, but 3 of the 4 nurses we spoke to, now caring for patients here, were enticed by a grassroots social media campaign they saw on TikTok.
What if we picked a day in like a month and a half or so where all of you come up here?
That's Nanaimo's Todd Maffin, a part-time influencer who, on a lark, invited Americans to visit the city during the tariff dispute. And among the hundreds who actually showed up were a few healthcare workers considering making a move.
So my wife and I kind of repositioned the whole thing as a healthcare recruitment project. And I think we're past 40 nurses and doctors now that have passed through that program that are moving here or have already moved.
His social media-based healthcare infusion movement has now expanded to cities across the country in search of more people like this.
Oh, I'm already working on permanent residency.
I belong to you guys now.
My boys are old enough they can hop on a plane and come see me.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Nanaimo, BC.
Well, before his departure from Japan, Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada needs a national debate on banning social media for children, though he hasn't taken a position on the idea himself.
I think this is something that merits an open and considered debate in Canada. I don't have a settled view on it. There are arguments in both directions, and now there's more and more experience with it, albeit on a relatively short term. To be clear, we're in a position, though, as a country where our legislation, the Canadian government's legislation with respect to online harms, the exploitation of children, is lagging. Naturally, this issue of an age of majority would be part of the consideration of that.
The Prime Minister said there are arguments on both sides and more information is emerging about how the policies might work. This after a number of countries are implementing or considering bans similar to Australia's for those under 16 years of age.
In sports, the struggling Maple Leafs return to action tonight, hoping to snap a 6-game losing streak.
Feeds it across the middle and scored. Didn't miss that time.
Yeah, it's been a tough season to watch. The Buds are coming off a tough trip to the Big Apple, falling 6-2 to the New York Rangers on Thursday night. They haven't won since the Olympic break. Tonight, it doesn't get easier. They're taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Bolts currently are sitting in first in the Atlantic Division, but they are also struggling a bit, having lost 4 straight. Puck drop is set for 7 o'clock at Scotiabank Arena.
We've got this. Well, less than 100 days to go until the FIFA World Cup. We're getting another indication of the surge in demand for places to stay in host cities like T-Dot. Hotels.com compared searches for accommodation during March and searches around June 12th, and that's the day Team Canada plays its opening match at Toronto Stadium. The site says hotel rates during that period are trending 2 to 3 times higher than they are right now, and searches are up 230%. Price increases are expected to be even more steep for Vancouver hotels around World Cup games, with stays projected to cost 3 to 8 times as much as they do now.
The Blue Jays continued their spring training schedule this afternoon against the Philadelphia Phillies. Jonathan Clace hit into a force out at second base in the 9th inning for the Jays, which would eventually end up being the only run of the game. Toronto went on to win 1-0. Max Scherzer, yeah, he's back. He made his first start of spring training, going for hitless innings and striking out 1 batter. Toronto takes on the Baltimore Orioles tomorrow afternoon.
Well, Canada has won its first medals at the Paralympic Winter Games in Italy. 21-year-old Kaylee Erickson and his guide Sierra Smith taking home the silver in the men's visually impaired downhill ski. The pair medaling in their first Paralympics, which was also Canada's first at Milano Cortina 2026. And Kurt Otway added a bronze for Canada in the downhill sit skiing. The Calgarian is at his 3rd Paralympics, and Canada would also add a silver thanks to Salmon Arm, BC native Natalie Wilkie, the flag bearer taking home her 8th career Paralympic medal. Stay with us, folks. More to come after the break.
to stand up and say unacceptable, but not just say unacceptable. We need to start seeing real action.
Updating our top stories, police in Toronto and York region are stepping up their presence around places of worship after 2 synagogues were shot at within a span of minutes overnight. Investigators say nobody was hurt, and so far there's no evidence the incidents are linked. Mayors Chow and Del Duca, Premier Ford and Prime Minister Mark Carney have denounced the incidents as unacceptable acts of anti-Semitism.
This had to be done. They were very close to a nuclear weapon.
U.S. President Donald Trump today said he was prepared to keep up military attacks on Iran as Israel and the Islamic regime created deadly attacks across the region. Iran's president, meanwhile, apologized to neighboring states that have been hit in recent days by his country's armed forces. Hardline clerics have pushed back on his decision to do so.
Just arrived from Dubai. I'm happy. I'm going to see my family.
And more Canadians are returning home on some of the limited flights making their way out of the Gulf region. The federal government has said it's working to secure blocks of bookings for Canadians on commercial flights where available, while planning charter flights and land transportation in other cases. Well, there's a debate brewing in the dairy industry as Quebec companies look to get a special designation for cheese curds made in that province. CTV's Josh Morano explains.
At St. Albert Cheese, just east of Ottawa, bags of fresh cheese curds are flying off the shelves.
It's these cheese curds I love.
For Dave Veldstra, it's a tasty tradition. His yearly trip to the region isn't complete without this one purchase.
We're down from London, and every time we're down here, we stop here to pick up the fresh cheese curds.
But the iconic squeaky cheese that has people lining up is now at the center of a debate over poutine's key ingredient.
It's a good news because everybody's talking about cheese curds and poutine, so that's good.
Quebec dairy producers want special acknowledgement. They are pushing for a protected geographical indication, recognizing Quebec curds as the traditional ingredient tied to poutine, similar to how only sparkling wine from France's Champagne region can be called champagne.
Cheese curd is part that when you do cheddar, when you cut the cheddar slab itself, it's making a curds. So curds was not invented by Quebec, so it should not be only known in Quebec.
But for Eric Lafontaine, Director General of St. Albert Cheese, the proposed idea doesn't cut it.
It's not fair that it's only going to be a control name in Quebec and not the rest of Canada, when the rest of Canada has been doing that product for a long time.
Some say where the curds originate isn't their main concern.
If it comes in Ontario or anywhere in Canada, and if you like the product, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Lafontaine says his biggest worry is how the label could dampen long-term sales worldwide.
It's the longer term that we're more concerned, because they want to export that poutine name everywhere else in the world. And for us, we think that St. Albert should be part of it because we're the biggest one and the oldest one.
And the best, according to Veldstra. He'll continue to buy his cheese from St. Albert.
Just the freshness and squeakiness of them isn't like any other.
Josh Morano, CTV News.
Harry Styles fans spent much of yesterday and today lining up for a pop-up merch store near Queen and Ossington.
I got his pink vinyl, as well as tea towels.
Very British.
Yes, and then some socks as well.
Fans of the British pop star snapped up merch at the store, which will also be open tomorrow. It's linked to his new album released yesterday titled Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally.
We listened to it when we were in a very crowded area, so it was kind of hard to listen to, but listening with your phone up to your ear, first thought is I'm obsessed with it. Like, I love it. American Girls is by far my favorite. But yeah, every song is pretty good.
I feel like it brings us back to our childhood a lot. Yeah. Like, we were talking about One Direction and how, like, we've kind of been fans from the start, and I think getting to hear him now and, like, how every single album's in, like, a different genre is really exciting to see.
If this brings them back to their childhood, man, I'm old. You know, one of the fans mentioned American Girls. Styles released the music video for that track a few hours after the album's midnight release. In terms of touring, the Grammy winner will be performing multi-night residencies in several cities, but Toronto is not on the list. Netflix filmed the singer's one-off performance in Manchester last night, and that'll start streaming tomorrow.
I met the star of Youngblood, Ashton James, probably about 8 months ago, and I see him in town every once in a while. Finally, his film is out. Richard Krause joins us now. We stopped him on the street. Richard, people remember Rob Lowe's Youngblood, but this is a little different.
Oh, this is much different. And the 1986 film with Rob Lowe was, an interesting sort of artifact of its time. It's kind of raunchy. It's a hockey drama that is all about this guy who's not tough enough, really, to be in the NHL. And he has to learn how to toughen up a little bit. This new film is the exact opposite. Ashton James plays Dean Youngblood, who's a guy who's aggressive on the ice to the point where he gets kicked off a team in Detroit, and he thinks that his dreams of being in the NHL probably evaporated with that until he gets an offer to come to Hamilton, Ontario, and play with the team there. And he has to learn about team play. He has to face some racial issues. He's the only black member of the hockey team. And this is a much different movie than the original. It's a much deeper movie, and it's really got a lot of subtext. The director, Hubert Davis, 3 years ago made a movie called Black Ice, where he explored in real life a lot of the issues that they re-explore here in Youngblood. The hockey scenes are great. It's got something to say, and Ashton James is great in the movie.
Okay, a lot of excitement going on there, and of course he picked up the director after the original director sadly passed away. Okay, Peaky Blinders, I never watched it, my husband loved it, and now there's a movie, I guess, to wrap up the time difference that has been away. Is that what's going on?
Well, sort of, kind of, yeah. So Cillian Murphy plays Tommy Shelby, who was the head of a gang called the Peaky Blinders. They were violent. They were, they ruled the streets of Birmingham until he had sort of a reckoning. And he decided that he was going to put all that behind him and, get introspective with his life. That was the end of the television series. Now we have the movie, which is in theaters now and will be on Netflix on March 20th. And in that movie, you've got him trying to write a memoir, trying to deal with PTSD from World War I, trying to, get his life together. But meanwhile, his son is making deals with the Nazis to flood Britain with fake 5-pound notes and sink the economy. So he has to spring back into action. So this is a movie that I think works best when it focuses on the character of Tommy Shelby. Cillian Murphy, as we all know, is a genius, and he is so good at being stoic and not really giving that much away with dialogue, but everything that's happening inside his head. He's brilliant with that. When they're doing that in this movie works really well. When it decides to become Mission Impossible in its last it works a little less because it takes us away from the thing that makes the movie really fascinating, and that's Cillian Murphy's portrayal of Tommy Shelby.
Okay, real quick before we go, Sweetness, I had a story on it earlier this week with Kate Hallett and Emma Higgins, who's the director, but you want to add your 2 cents worth on this one.
I like this movie a lot. This is the story of an obsessed fan who gets up close and personal with her teenage idol crush, a rock star named Peyton. And this is a movie that I think does what Misery did in its day for writers and fans. It does it for pop stars and fans in this era. It's smart, great performances all around, and it'll keep you guessing until the end.
Okay, Richard Krause, thanks for joining us. Coming up, we're going to talk to you about some new television shows, and so stick around, Richard. We'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Coming up on CTV News, it's that time of year again. A reminder that clocks spring forward early tomorrow morning as daylight saving time takes effect. Finally tonight, a reminder to move those clocks forward as we get set to lose an hour.
While the return of daylight saving time means a shorter sleep tonight for many, it's also a sign that spring is just around the corner. The clocks will spring forward an hour at 2 a.m. or when you go to bed tomorrow for the return of daylight saving time. The move is meant to prolong sunlight during the evening hours in the spring and summer. Most provinces and territories continue to follow daylight saving time, with the exception of Yukon, most of Saskatchewan, and some parts of Ontario. Quebec and Nunavut. BC is moving to permanent daylight time tomorrow, ending the biannual clock changes in the province.
Well, before we go, let's take one more look at the weather. That's a live look at the big birthday celebrations happening down for the city in Nathan Phillips Square. This is a look at the satellite radar. You can see that there is still some wet weather making its way through southwestern Ontario, so you could see some scattered showers. Temperature-wise, 16 degrees in Niagara Falls, 5 degrees in Kingston, and 11 degrees in Parry Sound, Bancroft, Peterborough. This is our forecast for tomorrow. 10 a.m. cloudy, but then the sun rolls in, 8 degrees by 3 p.m. and we'll get all the way up to double digits tomorrow, 10 degrees, and we climb even further on Monday up to 15. Then we could get some mixed precipitation on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but the temperatures are still pretty good, and it isn't until Thursday that the temperatures come back down to 1 degree. Andrew.
Wow, fantastic. Thanks, Raheem. Well, be sure to join us tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all the hardworking people at CTV News in front of and behind the camera, thank you for watching. Have a good night. I'm Andrea Case.
And I'm Raheem Wadais.